Hi Matej, it's Martin, excuse me, it's Martin Hill. Thank you for the second video, but what I'll actually do is I'll use a mixture of both to do the analysis. And what I'm going to do now is just call up the different videos in a software package that allows me to do the analysis and to do some stopping and starting. And for the first, I'll use your very first video, just a general look and just a general view of your swimming. I don't know whether this is your very first swim of the very first session, i.e. whether you're just warming up or whether this is part of the session. But it's interesting to know that you do breathe just unilaterally, i.e. just to one side. And this is the benefit of having the overhead shot, which is the second video that we took, because you'll see really what does happen as a consequence of doing that. But in general terms, looking at your stroke there, it's not too bad. It looks nice and smooth, nice and relaxed. One thing, and I'll pick up on this later, one thing that is important is that lead hand when it goes into the water, and what we'll try to do is to get you to try to overcome that lead hand, because what's happening is, as it's going into the water, and I'm sure you're probably conscious of this, but what you're trying to do, I think, is to catch the water. So you can see that pronounced wrist flexing there, and what that's actually doing is it's slowing you down slightly in the water. But we'll come back to that later on in the video. So this first video is it's a good general view of you above the water. Doesn't show you a lot about the main mechanics of underwater propulsion, but it does show that it's a reasonably good high body position, and it looks quite relaxed. Whereas talking about your hand entry, you can see in this shot particularly there, you see how your hand is going in to a quite pronounced flexed position, and what that does is it creates resistance, and you can see that it stays at the surface for quite a while. And then the same, although it doesn't enter the same with your left hand, it's quite entering the water quite flat and glides for quite a lot. You can see there that this hand is recovering, your right hand is recovering, your left hand is still gliding out in front and then starts to catch. You can see how your left hand, as it enters the water, how it's splashing and pushing water forwards. Looks a very nice facility, by the way. Nice tumble turn. I would say for the turns and in tumble turns as well, what you probably want to do is to try to get your streamlining slightly better. And I'll show you some videos at the end of this on the analysis, just so that you've got them good streamlining. But there's not a great deal more that we can take from that shot, although there is something further down here. Can't remember exactly where it is, but something down here under the water. And no, it's a head-on shot. There. This may, when I play it and when I explain to you what I'm saying, this may start to feel like it's what's happening, if that makes sense. Because if we see here, you're there turning to breathe, and then your head's back down in the water, do a stroke, another stroke, and then breathing again. In actual fact, what you're doing there, I think, is probably breathing much too often for the effort that you're putting in. And if this makes sense, what you're effectively doing is you so you're almost, whilst you're swimming, you're almost trying to hold your breath and then exhale at this point just here, just before you then turn to take a breath. So you inhale, head goes back into the water, hold it for a while, start to exhale just there, and you're still breathing out whilst you're trying to breathe in, if that makes sense. And in addition to the fact that you're breathing out whilst you're trying to breathe in, what you're actually doing in real terms is you're breathing at quite a high frequency. So you're probably breathing in real terms, like 1, 2, every 2 seconds. And breathing every 2 seconds doesn't really give you enough time to exhale all the air in your lungs. And that's really important, because if you can exhale that air in your lungs, it does a couple of things. One, it gets rid of all the carbon dioxide that your body's generating. And secondly, which is and that carbon dioxide is going to cause you to be anxious and eventually get tense and tired. But what it's also doing is lifting your upper body. And if we look at your body position, it's not too bad. But if we look at it in terms of your general position, you see how it's sloping down. So that line is roughly horizontal with the water line. But you can see how your body position is down. And it's not because you're heavy at the back end or because you've got heavy legs or your kicking is not very good. I think it's mainly because up here you're holding your breath, and as a consequence this part of your upper body is quite high in the water, and here is a hinge point, and if the upper body is up, the lower body is going to be down. So that's another important reason for getting rid of the air that's in your lungs. And the other reason I think that your legs are down is because your catch is good, but could be better and could be much earlier. And by that I mean that what's happening at the front end is that here we can see your right hand breathing to your left, your right hand is out there, and it stays quite long for quite a long time whilst you're breathing. And what's happening, because you can see the trail of bubbles, what's happening is that your arm is actually pushing water downwards. So you're pushing water downwards to lift your head out of the water, which is then using this as a pivot point again. It's pushing your upper body up out of the water and your lower legs down. So a couple of reasons for that body position. One is not exhaling as well as you could do. Secondly is that you're not catching as well as you could do, and both of those two things combined will help your body position and hopefully help you to be more relaxed as well. You can see again that downward slope, not massive, but a downward slope of your body, because your kick is not too bad. I think in terms of this video, we'll just look at your kick. As I say, your kick is good. It probably, if anything, is probably a little strong, but we'll come back to that one. So that kick is fine. That's generally good. What I'll do now is I'll flip to your other video, which is the more recent one that you sent through. And this starts off the same. We've got the above water shot. Good shot of, I think the second length is a better one. Good view of your breathing, which is really good. So if we look through here, you see now much more pronounced that hand entry position. But we'll ignore that for a minute and look at your head position. And that's almost perfect. That's really good, well done there. You can see that little bow wave there. You can see your head is only turned sufficient to get water, to get clear of the water and to get that breath. But if we look at now your hand entry positions, remember what I was talking about there? Because what's happening there is that your arm is going out there, but your hand is actually entering the water in a position that is just going to create lots of disturbance and slow you down. And what would be good to do is to try to imagine that your hand is more like a spear. So your hand is going into the water rather than that really flexed wrist, but your hand is going in much more streamlined. So it's actually spearing into the water, going forward rather than going downwards, because that is creating lots of resistance. And you can see how low that recovery is. Actually splashes the water and then back in. It'd be interesting to know whether you do swim open water events. I know you do it with triathlon, but how often you swim that and how you feel in open water compared to swimming in a pool. Because it may well be that with this with this stroke and the high elbow, what we call a high elbow relaxed recovery, you may be hindered slightly in open water, because what's happening is that so low there on the recovery, and you're creating that resistance when you go in there, you see the splashing, that it may hinder you in open water. And there you can see the splashing around your hand as it enters the water. So we need to try to get your hands going in more streamlined and more spear-like. So that's the side shot. This is the good important shot that I asked you to get the second time, which is really good. And the thing about this is that it shows you a lot of things that you can't really see otherwise. In particular, if we've got the black line there as a reference, if we look at your body position there, you can see how it's twisted round. And again, in open water, it'd be interesting to find out whether you do swim in a straight line, because what I suspect is that you may well go off to one side, and it may well be as you are swimming in open water, you're actually going off to the right. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure, and I'm sure you'll tell me, but the reason for that is that you can see here again that shape. What's happening, because you're breathing to your right hand side, this left arm actually is quite different to your right one in terms of that. You see how it's gone in the water and it stays long and straight. It does catch, but it's catching quite late in the stroke, but it effectively starts to collapse in the water. Whereas your right hand is catching much earlier there, and what that is actually doing is making, with this left hand as the support, if you like, for the breathing, what it's actually doing is it makes your left shoulder almost collapse into the water as well. And what's happening there is that your legs then start to splay out there, not massively, but sufficiently to create your body to go into that kind of banana shape, which is causing you a fair bit of misalignment. And so that is disturbing. Every time you breathe, that is disturbing your alignment. And again, you're effectively streamlining through the water. And that's the beauty of this overhead shot, because you can see that happening quite pronounced. There's a little bit down here that I want to look at in particular now, I think. It goes down here. This underwater shot. Because this now is effectively the catch. Good streamlining. Maybe slightly took your head down further, but that is really good. Starting your catch with the left hand, which, if you remember from the overhead shot, when you're breathing to your right, is the one that's going out long. Now you're swapping sides, so now you're doing it the other way around. But you can see how this right hand is extending and staying out for quite a while. And as you catch there, that's the initiation of the catch. That catch position we can't quite see with the camera angle, but you can see there that position is effectively what you're trying to aim for. You see what you're saying with your right hand. You see how it's starting to catch, but it's actually twisting underneath your body, and then twisting back out. Because what you're doing is you're trying to support your head whilst you're breathing, and that arm, the lead arm, or the arm that's opposite to the breathing side, is actually trying to help to support that. You see how your catch on your right hand is much slower than on your left hand, because you're breathing to your left hand side. Your stroke rate is about 64 strokes a minute, and I think with some of the drills that we'll do, and I'll put into the sessions for you, and I'll show you videos, that will help to increase your stroke rate, because there is a fair dead spot, if you like, at the front end of your stroke, which is not helping you to actually move continuously and smoothly through the water. Good strong kick, maybe a little strong if anything, but again you can see that pronounced downhill position. Because what we can see it from here, what we're looking for is to try and get that catch to be happening much earlier, rather than a long glide, as in glide, 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 glide. We want it to see you catching, so it's going in, so that your hands, instead of going out there and gliding, they're coming in there, rather than gliding there. What I want to try to do, you can see how your arm is sloping upwards and effectively slowing you down. What I want to try to do is to get that to be already at that stage, already in that position. So from shoulder to elbow, high elbow, pushing down to a high wrist, and then fingers down here. Because what we're trying to achieve is from there, keep this elbow high and get to there. Because you can see very early then that what's happening is that you're starting to catch water and push backwards. And also, as soon as you've got that, what they call a vertical forearm, or high elbow vertical forearm, water is being pushed back from here as well. So you actually use your forearm and your hand as a paddle. So what I want to try to do is to get your catch to be happening much earlier, and to use the strength that you've obviously got to push the water back much earlier as well. And in effect, lengthening your stroke without lengthening your stroke. And actually, that might sound contradictory, but actually it might be slightly shortening your stroke at the front, but making sure you're catching water much earlier. And if I show you some videos now of the kinds of things that I want you to try to work on. First of all, what I'll show you, and you may well have seen this before, is the video of Shelley Taylor-Smith. One part of it in particular, and that's down around about here, I think. This is what you really want to be trying to aim for, that position. And you are achieving that, but you're actually achieving it quite late in the stroke, so you're missing at the front, you're missing a fair amount of the stroke, or a fair amount of the catch. But you can see how streamlined she is, you can see how rhythmical and how balanced it all is. And what I want you to do in terms of drills, and I'll put these, or incorporate these into the sessions that I send to you, you may well have done some of these anyway, is to first of all have a quick look at this one. Very simple, use fins or not, it's up to you. I would suggest that your kicking is good enough. But this is really good, just a good effective drill to get into that streamlined position. So I think it'll include some of that. You may well have done this as well, the side kicking, because the point of the side kicking drill is to try to get your body aligned and to get you used to being nice and straight. So rather than, as we saw in the video on the overhead shot, is having a twisted body, is to keep your body nice and straight. It's fairly simple, fairly relaxed drill, but is one that is really important in learning how to keep your body nice and straight. There we go. So you can see, if you've got a black line on the pool, which looks like you may have when you go in there, try and use the black line and use that as a good reference, and just keep your body nice and long and straight over there. So all you're doing is turning to breathe, and then breathe out underwater, breathe in. Again, keep it nice and relaxed, make sure you do fully exhale. I'll give you a link on the swim sessions as well to an exhalation video, which I think will really help you, and you can do it at the beginning of the session as well, just to ease you into it, if you like. We also do this 616 drill, which is, again, I think you've probably done, starting off on your side, 6 kicks or count to 6, take a stroke and then rotate and then breathe. And it's important to take the breath after the stroke rather than first, much the same as you would do when you're swimming normally. But again, the whole point is hand entry and keeping your body nice and straight. You see how this hand is going down as a spear, it goes into the water nice and straight. And another drill that I think you'll find quite useful to overcome the hand entry position that we talked about is this one, broken arrow. And the idea of this is that on the recovery you actually do hesitate with your hand in the vertical position. And the idea being that what you're trying to do is to give yourself time to think about this hand and its entry into the water. So stop, then down, and then spear into the water. On the opposite side, recover, stop, and down, and then into the water nice and straight and nice and spear-like. I think you'll find that one useful and quite relaxing as a way of trying to get that smooth entry rather than splashing and gliding. Now the last few really important ones, because the thing that we're trying to do, as I say, is to trying to get your stroke rate up slightly, but also your catch position very much improved. And I'm not sure whether you've done this one or not, doggy paddle. And it's really important for two reasons. One is to get your catch earlier, and also to get your catch going straight. So you go forwards, again imagine that your hand is a spear, go forwards, catch, and then push straight back down. Imagine that your hands are going in a straight track, so you're going straight in front of your shoulders, catching the water, keep the elbows nice and high, and push straight back down. Use a pull buoy for this as well. It just helps you with lifting your back end, so you don't worry too much about that. So you can see how hands go straight forward in front of the shoulder, so straight out there, catch, and straight back. And there's no hesitation, there's no gliding in this. It's straight out and straight back. It's out and back. And I think you'll find this one to be really, really useful for improving your catch. The other one that I will include as part of the swim sessions, but not immediately, is sculling. Because this one is a very important drill for catching, learning to feel the water in your hands at the front end. And you've probably seen this on the website already, but really important to keep that hand position where we talked about your elbows being high and your wrist and then your fingers down below. Because if you do that, you can actually propel yourself quite quickly. And that's a really good illustration. So you can see there how your hands and arms are actually sloping downwards, and as you catch the water you propel yourself forwards. And I'll include some of that in the latter few sessions that I'll send to you. So I think in general the stroke is not too bad. It needs a lot of improvements at the front end in terms of catching the water. And what, as I said, the swim sessions that will do will help you to A, try to relax your breathing, because that in itself will help your body position and will help your swimming. B, to look at your alignment, so to keep your body in a much straighter track. And then finally, probably more important overall, is to look at your catch position and to get your catch happening much earlier. Thank you, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll post that onto YouTube for you. Cheers.